Hey everybody! Welcome to the 17th take of the 4th week of the attempt of recording Two Guys in a Shed, brought to you by two guys who are in a shed.
We're going a little bit crazy because tech issues, but we think we got it fixed as long as I don't touch anything.
So, as you're listening to this, don't move. Your movement might ruin this recording.
It's going to be all your fault, Kevin.
Fucking looking at you, Whipple.
Fuck you, Kevin.
Yeah, don't move. Just sit there completely motionless. Because we have we had incompatible mics, incompatible software drivers, finicky adapters, incorrect adapters, too many adapters, the wrong cabling, mic broke.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've boiled it down to shit just breaks now sometimes. So we solved all those problems. We set up our podcasting stuff in a different shed that allows us to not echo and stuff. And after solving almost a dozen plus hiccups, it just breaks down to sometimes it won't record our mics.
Yeah, I literally cannot touch the table, otherwise something will come loose because I have to buy a new one. And if I touch it, it'll come out a little bit and not work anymore.
You know, if I touch it, it comes out a little bit too, as in my penis.
I gathered.
Just making sure you're aware.
Yeah. Okay, so welcome to You Guys in a Shed. As always, I am your host, Jordan.
And I'm Ethan. That's still me. Nothing's changed so far.
This week we're talking about world building.
We're building worlds!
Part 1. Because...
Of 50.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to boil it all down into one episode. So we're doing however many. I think we decided 3 or 4.
It's 4, but that means probably 6.
Yeah. Which is going to turn into 8.
And then probably a 9th one that we don't publish. So there's so many ways to go about it's such a daunting task to build a world.
Yes, it is.
And there's so many nuances and so many things that, for example, my dad, shout out Dad, hey, he just begun in these past few months doing a Starfinder game. For those who don't know, it's Pathfinder in space.
Mm-hmm.
It's super detailed. Like, I'm a pretty good D&D player, and even I'm like scratching my head, having to Google like, what the fuck does this mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's a huge detailed game, and honestly, I think him diving into a massive game like that, brand new, where none of the players are skilled with it, is even more daunting. So he is just diving in the deep end, and it's honestly, I feel like his biggest hiccup was that first bit where you sit down, you're like, I want to build a world, and it's so daunting. So what we're gonna do is the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about different ways to get started.
Yes,
because there's a lot of tips and tricks, tips like using maps, different games, or buying modules and taking bits from them. So things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to actually basically talk about building a world from scratch, beginning to end. And the way we're going to do that is we're kind of going to zoom in real close and build a small world. And the goal, hopefully, is every episode we zoom out just a little bit. So we'll zoom into the small province where it's the town and some farms and forest outskirts.
Mm-hmm.
Then we zoom out and we see some borderline towns and maybe a larger city. Then we zoom out and we see the continent and then the whole world. And everyone builds worlds differently. You and I build pretty similar. I think you and I are kind of...
Yeah,
We're kind of... we do it kind of opposite where we tend to start big. Well, no, because you started Endos pretty small. That was your first.
Yeah, I started small just so that I could have something.
Well, that was what I did too. My first ever game was just Europe upside down and small.
Yeah. So because I started with Andendale, and then I added this other little kingdom to the side, and then slowly, then one day I was just like, I'm just gonna make a huge fucking map.
Yeah, I feel like I prefer personally going big first and kind of filling in the gaps. Like, I've always done that. Even when, if I'm building a town in, Minecraft, I want to build the walls first so I can see the space I have to work with.
Yeah.
That's how I've always done it.
Yeah, and that's something that, I built Andendale, for my first kingdom, just so that I could have a homebrew place for you guys to go. And then I just, I fleshed that out a little bit, kind of got some constraints and stuff like that. And then one day I got bored and made, the full continent of Sabota. Or not full continent, full like planet basically of Sabota.
I need to name my planet too.
Yeah.
I think it's still officially called Sunday Game.
Yeah. Do you remember how I named mine?
No.
Sabota. I think Sabota is like Russian for Saturday.
Yeah, because it's Saturday's game. What's Russian for Sunday? I'll just do that for mine. We should make it to where we should combine our universes so like it's the same planets in a system. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, same planets in a system.
Yeah, so we're just two planets. Oh, we're just here we go.
Yeah, this is the problem with us,
because now that we've agreed on that, we've now set a precedent where there's now more than what we've made.
Oh, so you remember how in my world, Dragonborn are aliens? They're aliens from your planet.
Oh! Right, because we talked about it, and in my world, they're descendant of dragons.
Yep.
So, okay, so now we've established that there's a connection between our planets.
Yep.
This is going to be a problem. Anywho.
Yeah, this is the problem with world building. All right, so back to starting small.
What we just did, I think that's actually a very good starting point. Is you don't just sit down, don't do it. So as I was saying before he broke it for the 15th time, what we just did was forever ago now, it feels like, because we had to fix the fucking audio, is you don't just sit down and make the world. The world, like, no one just makes the world that night. And a big thing, and I think the majority of where parts of our world come in, is we'll be making dinner and we'll just click and have a cool idea. And that idea fits into it.
Yeah.
Or maybe you'll read a book or you'll watch a movie and you'll love that movie. You'll love that one part that you saw or read about. And you will put that in a town somewhere in your world. So don't, like, it's a long process, which is why you start small and you slowly just add to it. We've been making our worlds for, I mean, you're 2 years now?
Yeah, 2 years.
I think mine's 6 months-ish, because this is a newer one. So we have, his is 2 years and we're still, stuff's still happening. We're still adding stuff to it. So it's a constantly evolving thing. And one of the biggest tips, like, if I was to give one just how to do it, is make something small and let your players fill in the gaps.
Yeah. Having players create things, it gives them like a sense of ownership to the world. It helps them get a little more invested in what's going on. And it just makes things all around like better and takes a lot of the weight of your shoulders off your shoulders of having to create everything. Because now you're just like, okay, hey guys, what kind of town are you from?
Like a good example is the town you're going to tomorrow in the game, Mirkwell.
Yep.
Mirkwell was a nothing town. I had put it there. I knew it was a town. It's an industrial town. Nothing came of it until you said you wanted a town on this continent that would have kind of less than reputable mercenary groups.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, I thought about it, and now Mirkwell is kind of the scum and villainy of the continent, where it's indentured slaves and servitude and all that. So you guys made Mirkwell. I just kind of put the foundation there, and it was made from you.
Yeah, we kind of gave you the like basis of what we kind of saw our characters being from,
and then we fill in the gaps. Yeah. And, same with North Pass. The town of North Pass never existed until you wanted somewhere to be from near the border.
Yeah. That's so Lady Gale, long may she reign. She's from a different continent that I haven't fleshed out, but I've started getting ideas because she wanted to be from a foreign, from a place where it was, kind of a natural elven kingdom where there was a lot of farming and a lot of things like that. And I was like, well, I mean, that fits 4AO a little bit. So I was just like, let's build from there. So I've started fleshing that place out. And Droika was the same player for Emrys was, hey, I'm from a kingdom where there's a bunch of zombies and shit. Like, you need to make that. And I'm like, all right, bet.
Yeah. And it's so convenient because no matter how much work you do, unless you are a New York best time author and someone who's written shit like Lord of the Rings, you're probably not going to sit down and get every single detail.
Yeah.
And you don't have to pretend like you do. It's okay to be like, oh, that town doesn't exist yet. Because it's open up, let your players run with that. If a player tells you, hey, I want to be from a far farming town, you'd be like, well, I have this empty town over there.
And it's in a location that kind of makes sense for it to be.
Tell me about what town you're from, and then they'll fill in the gaps, and now they have a place of being.
Yeah.
And conveniently, in 5 minutes, you've written this farming community with names, people, and all of that.
Yeah. And like you just take the basic idea from them and get some like cool concepts of like, oh, maybe it's this, so for example, like North Pass wasn't a town, and I was like, I'm from, it's this kind of like, transfer town where a bunch of military goes through there all the time, and there's a bomb that accidentally went off one time. And the economy is based solely on the fact that soldiers go through and they need supplies sometimes.
Yep, and now North Pass exists.
Yep. And
on Thursday's game, you're on the other side. Just bumped the table with my hand there. That was scary. Yeah, so I mean, really, it's just let your players, like, give them some of that world building. Let them do it. Don't just make your world and tell them this is how it is.
Mm-hmm.
Let it be more of a fluid thing. It's probably the biggest advice you could get.
Yeah. That's a big, like, easy bit of advice for overall world building. But now, starting out, you need to flesh a spot out for them to start. The way I am probably going to be going about it from now on, now that I've kind of got a world map, is what I would do is pick a spot on your map. So you build your map, just build, shapes. Just take some shapes, put them around, just draw something. You could even just trace the map of Earth and figure it out from there, and just name shit randomly.
Yeah.
But just pick a spot, right? Get a town name and a bar in that town.
Yeah, that's really all you really need to start.
Yeah.
Even not drawing shapes, you don't even have to go even that big, especially if you're completely brand new. Way back in the day in these fantasy worlds, medieval times, your worlds were actually very small.
Yeah.
A commoner would maybe know 30 square miles, and that's generous. It could even be less than that, or they've never left their town. So you could make a lot in this world, because this world could not be explored because people are so used to it. Basically, their worlds were limited to where they could walk in a day.
Yeah.
So if you look at the D&D, it's like it's 10 miles a day, or is it 8? Whatever it is. I mean, you as the DM.
I think it's 24. Because the average walking pace is like 3 miles an hour.
Times the 8 hours you walk a day.
Yeah, so I think it's like
call it 30, because 30 is an even number, 25, 30.
Yeah.
If you just make a circle that's a 30-mile radius, you now have a massive area that can have multiple towns.
Yep.
Multiple forests. It could have, in that world, that would probably be a self-sustaining town if it's a small medieval town. Mm-hmm. So it would have a mine up in the hills. It would have a forest, lumber area, a town.
Yep.
So you could just literally take a paper plate and draw a circle on a map, and now put a town right in the middle, or a farming community, something right in the middle, and then just start playing with it. Maybe I always, by habit, I tend to put mountains and stuff always to the north, because that's just kind of how, in my mind, I kind of feel it. It's like north of something.
Mm-hmm.
I always consider it the hills to the north and mountains and mines to the north. So I tend to put mountains up there. Around a community, around a village, you would normally find a river or some kind of large water source.
Yep.
If not more than one. There would be some forest, but it's being cleared to make lumber for the town. So you would tend to have open area now. It would be kind of encircled by forests, and then slowly being cleared. And they're using that land to build more, to expand the village, to add more housing, but mostly for farming and ranching.
Yep. And then you could also have it to where, they're starting to build like actual groves for it to grow more trees because they understand that, it's not going to be sustainable long term.
And then, because it is fantasy, you can toss in abandoned tower, an old tower from a Forgotten Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
You could throw in what's a good one? Abandoned mine shaft is a solid one.
Yeah, an abandoned mine shaft is
a desert temple. You could toss in there somewhere.
Yeah,
a mansion, ocean monuments.
You're basically just stealing from Minecraft at this point.
I mean, essentially, yeah. You just throw in, and it doesn't even have to be something extravagant like that. Like I remember, I had a huge not a campaign, but several sessions, all because it was nearing the end of the session. It was a boring session, so I gave them. It was an abandoned campsite. It was all bloody.
Mm-hmm.
That it's such a small thing. You could literally put it 300 feet off a main road, and it could not be seen. So in terms of like balancing stuff out, it wouldn't take up a lot of room. I don't like to have stuff too close together. It feels weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Oblivion or Skyrim, where every 20 feet is some crypt or dungeon or something like that. I like having a little bit of space. And you can have a whole story off that. And then, another route is just take from other campaign stories. Go by Horde of the Dragon Queen the first couple times. It's just defending a town from an attack.
Yeah.
Pull the dragon out, take all the bad guys out, throw in a thing of orcs, play it the exact same.
Mm-hmm.
You change some things around, change the name, change the outcome, maybe.
Yeah, it's a group of goblins and a group of goblins and orcs that are just trying to pillage for the sales, to sell to someone else to get money so they can survive and grow.
Yeah.
Or
maybe a dragon kicked them out of their mountain community, so now there's this whole thing.
Yeah.
Maybe and then just all of that, you already have that pre-written campaign, so you buy that book or just be normal and Google it. Now you have maps, now you have worlds. You change the names with the Fantasy Name Generator, the #1 website for DMs,
or Google Translate,
because that's what we do all the time. So I mean, it's okay to take stuff like that, especially if you change names and swap a few things out. Most people aren't even going to notice.
Yeah,
I guarantee you, I could take you and Daniel. Yeah, because you guys have done Horde of the Dragon Queen, and you would recognize it if I played the normal one.
Yeah.
But if I took all that out, different names, removed some NPCs and some encounters, threw in some different ones, it's orcs and goblins, it would just seem like an entirely different fight.
Yeah.
And, it's super easy. It would take me 30 minutes to make 3 session bit. Because, I mean, it's a long one. That Horde of the Dragon Queen's a pretty rough, long one.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you do that, read it first, because it's rough. The published modules like to kick the player's ass. It was almost 3 sessions before y'all got a long rest.
Yeah, it was rough.
And it's level 1, so you have like 2 spell slots.
Yeah, it was.
Do some tweaking, or don't. Fuck it, and make your players work for it.
Yeah, I mean, if they are experienced players, like, kick their teeth in a little bit.
Yeah, and with that, going off that foundation, let's say that's the only thing, everything else you want to make completely fresh. You only use that first town in Horde of the Dragon Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you zoom out, you now have something to build off of, because you now have a starting point. You have this town, and the second thing I would think of is, where did the orcs come from? So maybe you make another town in the hills or on the other side of the mountain range. Something that would mean that they wouldn't really know of each other, but now they're invading. Yeah. A mountain range is a very convenient one, because that would separate these 2 groups and they could live independently.
Yeah. You could also have the orcs be from the mountain range, because the idea of, hey, they had like an encampment, in the mountain range, and
something happened.
Yeah, a dragon came in and took over, started bullying them, kicked them out, and said, "Bring me money and I'll give you your space back."
Yeah. And now you have a campaign.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and with that, it's much more easy to build when you have to in world building. Because
Yeah.
as much as we say players can do anything, it's very rare that your group's like, you know what? Fuck these orcs, and they get on a wagon and fuck off to the next continent. It's super rare.
Yeah. Yeah. I could only see myself ever doing it just to screw with you, just because
Yeah.
it's funny.
But see, I prepare for that. That's why I have this whole. I'm like, oh, which continent do you want to go to?
Yeah.
Um,
So I figure one thing we could do is to kind of help put into words is start building, I guess, what would be the third planet in our now continued solar system.
I say we start with what we just said. Let's use that large kind of village.
Yeah. So what ideas do you have for naming it? Because that's something that really helps set a theme. Is what you name it, how you go about naming it. Like, is there a meaning behind the name?
Yeah,
And also, one thing that could help us name it is what's the infrastructure of the town in the first place? Because all we know is it's being attacked by orcs and goblins.
yeah, and this is where this is where there really isn't any easy tip or advice. Now you just start thinking about it. So we're making your world. You now have a town in the grassy plain area attacked by orcs.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at the module, because we are basing this off that beginning one.
Yeah.
Um, it was a pretty generous town. Like, it was not a small one. They had their own keep.
Yeah, it was a fairly, I would say, medium-sized town.
I mean, it was big enough to have that fucking castle, not castle, that like fort in it.
Yeah. So it had that fort.
That's considerable.
Yeah, I think that town was like a go-between town where
Yeah,
a lot of
it was
people
like-
traveled through.
So I would just, again, because going off the fact that I want to change it, I would take out that keep, put a small kind of humble castle, and say that this land is owned by a noble.
Mm-hmm.
Because for one, it doesn't change too much in terms of me using the module, but it does make it a different bit. So now this is a large, generous farming town, self-sustaining, ran by an old human. I'm kind of thinking like Ren's backstory, like an old human noble,
Yeah.
where he fought for the king of the
Overarching.
city.
Yeah. And he's just kind of like, I have land now. I just kind of working my way to retirement. I take care of the people.
Yep. He's a big, strong guy. He's smart. The king trusts him, so they go ahead and they give him this land. So I would probably name it. I would probably use the name generator. I would find a nice last name and name it that.
Yeah. The way I kind of went about it, because it's the way I normally go, is I think of what is the town known for. It's a go through. You go through the town.
Farming and trade, probably.
Yeah, and so it's got trade, but I kind of went through the. I put, so in Google Translate I put pass through as just a general thing, and then if in the English aside, and then for the other language, I started going through just different languages. So I went on to Filipino and got the word Dumon.
So like Dumont Crossing.
Yeah, so Dumont Crossing isn't just.
And then now we have Lord Dumont.
Yep. Yes, and it literally it's just pass through crossing is if you translate it, but you just say it's Dumont Crossing, and with its leader.
And that sounds perfect. That's
Lord
perfect
Dumont is the leader, and now you have the name of the town. You have a king. You've got kind of the king's ideals. You could figure out the king's the Lord's ideals, I should say.
Yeah, and I kind of consider the way we do this kind of plug and play world building.
Yeah.
Where we started with a very simple beginning. We wanted a fun beginning campaign.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know where to start because, you and I were brand new, so we didn't know where to start. So we used that module. So now we have this module, we have this foundation. So you kind of just take it. Very similar. I know I mentioned it briefly in our backstory episode where I said we'd get to it. Like the whole working backwards.
Yeah.
We have this town. It's attacked by orcs. It has this castle. a lord runs it. Why? Well, the Lord Dumont, because he did this and this and this.
Yeah,
And
it's the Y method.
And now you make a little backstory. And now, why are the orcs attacking? Well, they have lots of food. Why? Oh, they're big into farming. Well, why are they attacking for the farming? Oh, the dragon attacked them. So you've now just kind of tiered building downwards.
Yep.
This whole story. So now, with very minimal effort, we've now built a established farming and trading community, which is a modest town ran by an old fighter, Lord Dumont, who was gifted this land by the king, and used it to make a nice pass through. Am I too loud? What do you? Not loud enough? What was that?
I was turning you up.
Oh, you were like very nervous when doing it.
Because last time I touched the volume,
Oh yeah,
it stopped working.
And now you have the main hook, which is the orcs and goblins are attacking, and there's a dragon in the mountains. And now they have to find that out. Will they capture an orc? Will they find the chief and that like scribbled in Orcish about what's going on, and he was sent by a different orc that runs the tribe to try and gather resources.
Yeah.
And now you have this whole story.
Yeah.
And now that's when you I would start there. This is where the game would start.
Yep.
And now the players are they're gonna think of stuff, they're gonna ask questions. Maybe at the end of the session they decide, you know what, this is way too much for us. Let's go tell the king.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a fair, I mean, honestly, no, it's not. They would immediately go rushing to the mountains to check shit out and probably get killed.
Yeah.
But for
congratulations, you got your first TPK.
For normal-headed people, most people think getting help.
Mm-hmm.
So now we got to zoom out a bit. Now we have to make this place for them to go.
Yeah.
So the first thing I would do is I would look at where my town is. I would zoom out and I would drop the other town somewhere, the capital city.
Yeah.
And then I would think about a road there, maybe just for fun, add a massive river and a bridge, and you could have fun with that. Maybe there's a troll under it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a goofy, nice troll.
Put in a bandit camp somewhere that, hey, they get intercepted on their way there. Somebody tries to mug them. Hey, you've got a cool little combat encounter.
Yeah. And then don't forget when making roads, that in worlds like this where travel is so prominent, there are rest stops.
Yeah, because if there's going to be a 2-day travel, there's going to be some kind of rest stop or some kind of like, this is a guarded camping area.
Yeah, or it literally could just be a cleared spot next to a river that's built for camping.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because especially in D&D, there's so many caravans and wagons and adventurers that just naturally these would appear. And they would appear in natural spots, which would be every day of travel. There would normally be an old shed someone built for camping. Or if you're on a very big main road, it's not uncommon to see guarded campsites.
Or an inn,
or even an inn or a tavern, a hospital. Because way back when, hospitals were actually just for people to sleep.
Yeah.
That's where the word came from. So you would actually find a hospital out there. Or you'd even find a farmer who's known for taking people in exchange for work. You know, there's so many fun things you can do about it.
Yeah.
A lot of fun encounters could come from, you know, finding a place to stay for the night.
Yeah. So you could do something like, okay, after you've defeated the orcs and the goblins, you captured an orc and got word that, hey, a dragon kind of took over, and you're going off to the kingdom or the capital to try to speak with the king or one of his advisors or something to get assistance. On your way there, the inn that one of your players knows about as a good place to stop also has like a farm next to it where they have like this kind of trade agreement, and the farm got attacked by gnolls. Hey, look, now you have a little side quest. You can get free lodging for going and getting these gnolls.
Or if you have a group that doesn't like combat a lot, which is normally a 50-50, normally half of them like combat. It's rare to have one full group that wants to murder and fight all the time.
Yeah.
So it could be a fun bit where like the pigs got out. So you can have this fun bit where now the players have to go wrangle in hogs, making acrobatics, athletic checks. The wizard might try to do some magic.
And now you as the DM have to sit there and think of, okay, well, now I have to think of pig wrestling mechanics for D&D.
Oh, easy. That's a grapple check at disadvantage because they're really, really wrangly.
Yeah. Yeah, but like then you get to have fun with the players, and they get to have like, maybe it's level 2, so the wizard casts enhance ability on somebody, so now they have creative solutions, and you can figure out whether hold person works on a pig, and
Which it probably wouldn't because it's a whole person.
not hold animal.
And then it's gonna let the group build banter. It's gonna let them have banter. It's gonna let them build themselves as a group. And now they're gonna make friends. Now whenever they come back, they go, oh, you're the pig guys.
Yeah, you're the guys that fix the pigs. You know what? Yeah,
don't worry about it. It's on me.
Yeah, dinner's on me tonight. It's all good.
Yeah, we're having pork. Guess which one?
Yeah,
you've met dinner before.
Yeah, I think you're the one that caught it.
Yeah, I think you touched his poo in the mud too, so you might be real familiar with this one.
Yeah, you still. Have you taken a bath since then?
And so then they rest, and now they finish. They get to the capital. Capitals are pretty easy. Just think any capital in like a fantasy game.
Yeah.
Stormwind from World of Warcraft. I forget other ones. I immediately just blanked. But just think large cities. They're mostly made of stone.
Yep.
Think Solitude from Skyrim. Imperial City from Oblivion. Think the other ones. I'm running out again. But just think they're normally large, and it's okay to go in those tropes. Yeah. The king probably lives there.
Yeah, the tropes are there for a reason.
It probably has.
As a first-time world builder, you do not need to go away from those fantasy tropes. They're tropes because people like them.
Yeah, everyone loves the good. The farm is under attack by orcs. Go kill the orcs and save the farm.
Yeah, like wait until you've built this first little section that is your typical kingdom before you start breaking the tropes.
Yeah, it's okay. Like on Sunday's world, one of the kingdoms is just a good old fashioned. The king lives here. All the towns are run by people he assigns to run it. They all pay him taxes. He runs a big military because he pays for them. Mm-hmm. All the towns have a small personal detachment. Nobles are prominent. The noble group kind of has an assembly that kind of persuades the king. It's a very normal world.
Yeah.
And that's okay because the world next to it is ran by insane artificer gnomes who are inventing gunpowder, and they're absolutely crazy. Mm-hmm. And it's ran because they're the smartest ones.
Yeah.
And then up north, it's like a republic. It's okay to have that normal one because it might seem boring that, oh, my kingdom is a normal kingdom. Don't forget that the more you play, eventually you can zoom out more, and you can now build these multiple kingdoms.
Yeah, that crazy idea you have, put that to the side, and then after you've built this little bit of story and a little bit of world with some history, you can say, all right, well, this other kingdom idea I have would be over here. Kind of.
Yeah. Like the movie Encanto. Have you seen that movie, Jordan?
I want to.
It is wonderful. So no spoilers, but the premise of the movie is they're in this kind of magical village.
Yeah, I mean, I know the premise.
So that's all I wanted to say. I love that idea of this like kind of sentient magical candle or artifact that reaches out to people in need and brings them to this village.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want that in my world. Now, because I have a massive world, there isn't a campaign where I can put it in naturally. So I put it somewhere else. Now, this continent, there's this weird area where people have gone to and they haven't come back. And they're not being kidnapped. They're going to this, this magical world where you cannot find it unless the artifact reaches out to you in your time of need and pulls you in. Mm-hmm. You can leave whenever you want. They're not like, kidnapped. But I love the Encanto idea, so I pulled it in.
Yeah.
We watched... what was that movie? The guy had the rings.
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi? That super cool fucking magical thing in the forest. You bet your ass.
Yeah.
All of our campaigns have that thing in it.
Another kind of like... So, I guess the where we're coming from is... there's a book called Steal Like an Artist. That's a really good book for anybody who's doing anything creative, where the whole idea is, at this point in the world... No idea you have is completely original. You just take an idea you've heard of, and modify it, and all of a sudden it's an original idea for you. Um, there's a person on Twitter it's called where they do the shitty character ideas. I can't remember the exact name of it for some reason off the top of my head, but he had this idea where there's a sentient magic item shop who is in love with the bookstore, the library across the street, and is always asking, yeah, exactly. So I've kind of been running with the idea where now it's this like ancient magic shop where the wizard who owned it originally enchanted the place to run on its own so that he could retire, not work as much because he's getting old. So now the shop can run itself, and it slowly becomes more and more sentient and falls in love with this enchanted bookstore across the street. So whenever you come in to buy these books or buy these magic items, you speak with the store itself, and it asks you, well, we'll give you a discount if you bring this flower across the street for us.
I'm picturing it like in Kanto because the main building is sentient, so like it'll move the tiles to push an item towards one of the characters.
Yeah.
So I'm imagining like the floorboards across the floor and like lifting up the flower for you to grab.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've 100% implemented that in a place that you may or may not come across. I don't know. Like, I don't know what you guys are, fully planning on doing.
I don't think we know. I mean, it's DMs, every experienced DM I know, like, if you're watching a super cool movie and it's a cool idea, you bet like, for Shang-Chi, all three of us immediately, like, opened our phones and we're taking notes in our Samsung Notes app.
100%. Every movie I watch, I've been watching Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans, and
It's a hell of a title.
It's such a good anime. I've been slowly like taking notes on ideas just from the concept, and now that we've established that, hey, our worlds are from different planets.
Oh, the second we're done recording, we're gonna go sit in there and just begin.
Yeah, because I mean, we still have to go over O&O stuff too.
Oh, fuck, it's right. But the life of a DM.
Yeah. Yeah, so just taking ideas, and honestly, something that really helps and has helped us is having a person to just bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, just talk.
Find a Discord server and just talk to the people on there, because you'll get so many ideas, and you can find like one person you really vibe with and just get on Discord calls.
And then, or you can meet a friend and you could like really hit it off, start talking about world building, and eventually you guys become really good friends and you make a podcast about it.
Yeah.
And he helps you build shit in your backyard, and then when the world ends, you guys get together and run the whole world. Just normal DM stuff,
Yeah.
One thing I do want to say is I know you and I kind of explain stuff not perfectly. Like there's no script we're reading.
No, we're
this
literally
might
just
not
riffing
seem
this.
Really, yeah. This isn't a step-by-step guide.
Yeah, I think this is more the intro to world building, and the next episode will actually kind of script it a little better and have.
We say that, but probably not. But
that's what our goal is.
What I wanted to say is, I've been DMing for several years now, and for the first time ever, I actually opened this thing called the Dungeon Master's Guide. And
the what?
I know it's baffling. They actually made a book about DMing. I've never actually read it because I just Google what I need, but I actually opened it, and believe it or not, chapter 1, fucking like page 14, the very beginning of the book, it surprisingly, shout out to Wizards of the Coast, sorry, I keep like looking down the book, the audio's probably weird, but they do a phenomenal job honestly walking you through almost step by step, building a world from like a province all the way to like continents, and then how to combine the continents.
Yeah.
How to roll for how towns work. Rolling for your noble hierarchies, explaining the different forms of government, going through your factions and organizations, creating your own, how to handle magic in your world. And granted, it's not going to do everything. There's only so much info they can give you, but
Yeah.
like honestly, I kind of want to do an episode where you and I only use this creating your own world and see what no phones, nothing, just our brains and this book, what you can make. Just walking through this. It's like 20 pages. Actually, it is 10 pages, and it stops after the magic, and then it goes into now you've made a world, time to make a campaign.
Yeah.
So if you read these two chunks, just sit down with a pen and a paper, or like a Google Docs, like an adult, and you can end up forming a pretty solid campaign. You could end up building a pretty solid world. It's not going to be perfect,
But
yeah,
no world's ever going to be
yeah.
perfect. And
There's only
if you have a plot hole, you just be like magic.
I actually put plot holes on purpose because people aren't perfect. Like for example, shout out to my spouse Tristan. The first ever DM game, not DM game, the first ever game he tried to DM, he made the mistake of going crazy with it. It was a super good idea, and I actually hope he kind of goes back to it because it was a very interesting idea. To summarize, like a 30-minute explanation, all this like the worlds was like cat 5 storms outside, but every single town had a small crystal protecting it from the weather.
Mm-hmm.
We were not told that when we went into the basement of the library, because he kept saying library. In the library, we were fighting off evil cultists who were working with an evil hag.
Yep.
And they had they had stabbed this crystal. Well, when we saw that, what we saw was they had placed a crystal in this room. So we freaked out and we had attempted to stop whatever they were doing. We ended up freezing the crystal over.
Yeah.
I did. I touched it with a magical branch we found. Trying to stop it, it froze over. The town fell apart. It was no longer protected. Thousands died. My character, I think, was super depressed.
Yeah, because now you killed everyone.
Because now I killed my lawful good little gnome guy. Killed thousands of people. And the thing what really bothered me was Tristan took that as we were blaming him. He was saying how, oh, as a DM, I made that mistake. As the DM, I did not tell you that. Because that is something you'd probably know.
Mm.
And even if you didn't know, that was something you should have known as a player. And I said, no, you didn't tell us that. The panicking librarian didn't tell us that. Who's the one who sent us down there to go help.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as a DM, yeah, unfortunately, I agree. He was right. That is a plot hole. That is something we should have known.
Mm-hmm.
But not only does it make a good story, it's realistic. People don't tell you everything. Story arcs and things like in video games, they aren't always perfectly explained.
Yeah, the librarian might have just assumed we knew what it was.
She might have been panicking. Maybe she was scared and forgot.
Yeah. So we destroyed this crystal, destroyed this town. So now we are either super depressed and want to repent for our fuck ups.
Well, step one is we got to save these people.
Yeah.
We got to defend this wagon. Got to get these people to the next town over. So that plot hole, which to him ruined the campaign. As a DM, it was like, no, this is fucking amazing. This is perfect. Keep going. You're writing a book.
Yeah.
And it's okay to leave plot holes in. I will I do it all the time, much to some players' annoyance, where sometimes the story just stops. You're hunting down this person, you're going from clue to clue to clue, making your way through it, and eventually there's just, oh, Brett? Oh, I think he left. I don't know where Brett is. And there's no more information. He's gone under the radar. It isn't like a RPG where you can perfectly follow these very conveniently placed clues. Sometimes they get away.
Yeah.
Now, as a DM, don't be a dick. Eventually have a fun bit where maybe in several sessions they're in a market and someone bumps into them, and when they bump, the hood falls down. Oh my god, it's Brett! And they freak out. And that to them is going to make it seem like you did a phenomenal job, when realistically, you probably just forgot that they were supposed to find a note 20 fucking sessions ago.
Yeah.
Quite often I forgot. I was like, oh, you were supposed to get healing potions back there.
Whoops.
Well, a magical spring opens up in the cave after the golem smashes the wall and you're all healed for 1d4. those plot holes can, when you try to solve them naturally, it can lead to cool stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's okay if you forget stuff. It's towns aren't perfect, people aren't perfect.
Yeah. Just roll with the punches.
If a player's like, wow, it's pretty fucking dumb how the harbor is across town from the warehouse, so we have to take a wagon and haul the supplies all the way to the warehouse and then haul stuff all the way back. Wouldn't they just build the warehouse next to the harbor? Yeah, they probably fucking should, huh? That's yeah. This town, they're pretty dumb.
Yeah, or yeah, they're dumb, or maybe they just built this new warehouse and the only plot of land they had available was across town.
Yeah, so it's and in my DM head, I'm like, oh my god, I'm so dumb. I made a mistake. No, you didn't. Whoever built the warehouse probably did.
Yeah, and that goes so. In jazz, there's this thing where
interesting pivot, but go on.
So there's this concept of you didn't play the wrong note, you just didn't play the note with enough confidence.
I like that.
So, and that's the same concept you have to use as a DM, where okay, yeah, you fucked up, just roll with it.
Yeah.
I think my guitar teacher in high school told me if you play a wrong note, play the same note 5 more times, make it sound right.
Yeah. Everything you do has a reason, has a purpose. You know, being good at improv definitely helps. And if you're new at DMing, it's okay to be like, hey guys, I'm brand new at this.
Give me a second to think about it.
Give me a second. It's totally okay to ask for a moment from your players. It doesn't have to be this perfect back-to-back-to-back-to-back bit.
Yeah.
You could be like, oh, you stabbed the king? Can we take 5? The party will laugh, be like, take all the time you need because fuck that king.
Yeah.
I mean, also, especially if you play with like an experienced DM, that dude totally gets it. He's like, you take your fucking time.
Yeah. Yeah. Players would much rather take a break, gives that chance to go to the bathroom, stuff like that, while you figure out a way to make this into a good story plot.
I mean, you can even be like, okay. There was a couple times, Jordan, when you were very early on DMing that you like didn't prepare enough and we'd have to call the session like super early.
Yeah.
That sucked. But it's better than you trying to bullshit a session.
Yeah.
So what I do is I deliberately have extra stuff prepared.
I do all the time.
All the time. Like I deliberately, let's say I know you're for example, Sunday. I know you're going to get to Merkwell. Probably. But let's say I wasn't prepared for Merkwell. Let's say tomorrow I wake up, I'm not feeling well. I'm like, fuck, I've prepared nothing. You can't get to Merkwell yet.
Yeah, so just build an account.
Yeah. In the night, your wagon gets stolen. Fuck you. Now I've bought myself a session or two.
Yeah.
Where maybe a giant eagle swept in and grabbed their fucking wagon and flew away.
I guess in the case of the Sunday game, all those mercenaries we just hired are like, well, these guys are rich.
Yeah, half of them steal your wagon.
Yeah.
There's plenty of things to do. Just think of a way to slow them down and you can do it. Maybe you have a piece of paper that you left in your backpack and you have to give it to the king of the town you're getting to. Fucking... And I know you're going to the king in the morning. Your backpack is stolen that night.
Mm-hmm.
You wake up and the place has been robbed. You don't know how you were asleep. But it's gone.
Yeah, somebody put. I don't know. This is where you can start creating magic items. Where somebody put a sleep powder in the air, made everybody just go to sleep. If you're on, it's a thing where if they're already asleep, it makes them go into a deeper sleep.
Or you can really spice it up, and the innkeeper is working with a group of bandits, and he is poisoning the stew every night.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like marking the rooms that rich adventurers are staying. So now you've not got to the king yet, so now I can better prepare for dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I know I want the king assassinated, but if it's a very elaborate bit, I'm going to have to really plan it out. You have to think about ways, like let's say I really want the king assassinated. Do I want it to happen while you're there? That'd be dramatic. How do I stop you from stopping the assassin? What do I do? And then there's ways to work through it. So, and then that's a lot to prepare. You might need some time. especially if you work a full-time job and stuff. So it's
Yes.
buy yourself that time. I have tons of little shit. Like for example, the Innkeeper one. That's one of the ones that I have. Like I have a little piece of paper that's like, "Please stop. I'm not ready for you to continue the main story."
Yeah.
So I can do that, and that's like I could turn it into a good 3 sessions of trying to find out what happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe the Innkeeper, he now like, because you woke up and immediately got mad, he was like, "Oh, the poison's supposed to make you forget." But maybe as a DM, you make them roll a save, you pretend everybody but one person failed,
Mm-hmm.
and that one person knows, "Hey, I remember our stuff's missing." Everyone's like, "What stuff? We didn't come here with anything," because they modified our memory. One person remembers, so now that person has to have dialogue with the group, convince them.
Yeah.
Then it's a whole thing. So I've now bought myself, honestly, as much time as I want, because in 30 minutes I can have you find the Innkeeper,
Yeah.
or in 3 sessions you can find him.
Yeah.
Um, I did this one time in the Thursday game where I wasn't prepared for them to go into like a dungeon yet, so I had them go across the continent hunting down these escaped like deserter soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
because they had to have gas masks to go past the old natural gas lines in the sewers.
Yeah.
And I bought myself that time.
Yeah. It's super easy to just buy yourself time with things like that, and that's a lot of world building and campaign building is just buy yourself time to get ideas. Like
Yeah.
honestly, you're not superhuman. Nobody's Matt Mercer, you know,
Except Matt Mercer.
except Matt Mercer. And Matt Mercer.
Shout out to Matt Mercer.
Yes.
I know he listens to it every episode.
Yeah. Can I get the new Tal'Dorei Reborn book, please?
Where his favorite podcast actually?
Yes.
Don't Google that.
Yes. Yeah. He has been on the record saying that.
Yeah, but don't look it up.
Yeah. Just trust us.
Yeah, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So I think a very important thing when world building that I think a lot of people kind of skip is, what do you want the story to be? Because the story you make actually has a very different impact in the story than you might think.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I ran a campaign that I based very heavily on the hit game of the year of like 2009, The Elder Scrolls Oblivion. I used the big beautiful map, all the cities. I actually recently played it, so I wrote a few side quests. So I had this big gorgeous world, but the story in Oblivion is a very dangerous, straightforward, we have to save the world kind of story.
Yeah.
Now, everyone jokes about RPGs where you ignore the main story to do the side quests. They don't do that in D&D very often, especially if it's like, oh, the king was murdered. Sorry, emperor. Fucking still to this day, I keep calling him the king. The emperor is killed. The world's gonna end. We have to do something about this. And now the party is basically gonna go from A to B to C to D to E, going down the main quest line.
Yeah.
Very rarely stopping. Like I would have to literally, like, steal shit from you to stop you. It very much you're not gonna go check out some rumor of treasure when you have to deliver this paperwork to Joffrey.
Yeah.
And because of that, it meant that my world was narrowed down to the main story, because the main story was the adventure. It wasn't the world.
Yeah. And that's one of those things where when you create a story for a world, try to make it a very like open-ended, how do we solve this, rather than you have a line to follow.
And that's why I ended up canceling the campaign. It's great to play in a video game. It didn't fit in D&D.
Yeah. Because
it was very boring to me, because it was just me pushing you along this script.
Yeah.
I was railroading myself having you play that. What I like to do is I'm using it for Sunday. Is I like to have it to where, think of the main story like the layer of a pond, like the top level of water. That's the main story.
Mm-hmm.
And the group is a rock you're skipping across the pond. It hits it. The party interacts with the main story, and then it skips, and then some time passes before they are reintroduced to it.
Mm-hmm.
The main story is happening behind the scenes, and the group over time will run into it more and more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
The first skip's a huge skip when you throw the rock. So, like, for example, your organs were stolen. That's crazy. Wow, that's insane. And it did not come up again for a couple sessions. And then you met a bad guy, and he explained the bare minimum of information that he bounced for a while.
Yep.
And now you're back to, well, this is going to be a problem later. This is weird. And now over time, I mean, granted, you've fucking changed the story now that you have an army.
Yep.
Whoops. So that's going to be different. But and that's kind of how I like to do it. Because you know there's a main story. You know, you guys are aware that you're basically a medical test.
Yeah.
You know there's some weird item in you. You know there's a very rich group paying you. But there's all this downtime in between, which lets me send you on all these crazy adventures.
Yeah. And now, kind of the way we went with our army. See, I don't see us traveling with that group as much. I think we're probably going to go to a town and just say, all right, guys, for until we get a little bit more consistent work and an actual like job board, hey, we don't have a reputation right now. Just get a job board. You guys go work, and we'll be in contact about other jobs that we come across as rep comes.
We'll see how that works.
That's the initial idea.
They're not gonna like that.
So, like,
yeah, well, and that's we'll see how that goes. But that's I'm having way more fun doing that. That's why in the world, instead of giving you the one that we did before we had a council because Tristan had to go out for a while. I sat down for weeks and I made this whole world, multiple continents, fucking Dragon Island, that was Russian for like cold lizard, Svenja, the pig continent. I made all this world, and then it was like when we started, I gave you 3 rumors, 3 different rumors that you've heard throughout your travels, and you got to pick which one you were going for when the campaign started. That was fucking super cool. That's probably how I want to start most campaigns. Yeah. I liked this. The current Sunday game was kind of neat because I wanted to try that idea of the organs being stolen. That sounded like a fun thing to do. Yeah. But I really enjoyed having such an open-ended story because there's stuff happening. Obviously, you're aware of it. But it's not forcing you to go from A to B to C to D to E.
Yeah, it's just kind of like this mystery, but there's no information known about it. So we have to kind of roll with the punches for a little bit until we figure it out.
Yeah, until you start meeting more people, getting more information. And to me, it's great because now I have complete control over it. Now I can literally do anything to you guys from the main story's perspective, and it makes sense. In Oblivion, I couldn't just steal your organs. What? How? Why? But now I've set a precedent where there's this very powerful group, so now just crazy shit can happen. Yeah. I can have you guys wake up and there's another person there who wakes up. He's like, oh, I was placed here. You could wake up in a different world. I could say there's so many things that I can do. I left it so open-ended.
The mercenary company we're starting, a guy could hire us. Like, hey, we heard about your exploits in, the first town whose name I forgot. We heard about your exploits. We want to hire you to take care of this thing, but that person's hiring us is actually working for that company. Yep. And they just want to use that as a test to check up on how we're reacting.
Wow, that'd be a crazy idea. This
is the problem where you have your other DM buddy in your game, man.
That's almost like what's not definitely gonna happen pretty quick. That's crazy. No, that's tee-hee. It's totally a normal guy hiring you for a normal job.
Yeah.
LOL.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and really, this is honestly what we're doing now. This is how you world build. Yeah. Like, literally, when we made our maps, we sat across my table and just quietly drew our maps, and we would be like, how's this look? Oh, pretty cool. That looks like a pig. And like, oh, fuck, it looks like a pig. And now it's called Svenja, which is Russian for pig. Or bacon?
I can't remember.
I think it's bacon. For all our Russian followers, go ahead and let us know in the comments down below.
Yeah, and it was probably changed a little bit, so it's probably like a close but not
Yeah.
exact thing.
Yeah, and that's how we did it. Shout out to Incarnate.
Yes.
We will do an episode where we just talk about all the different software we use because it's there's a lot of different ways to use it. Incarnate, which we are not sponsored, but we should be. Shout out to you guys. You're killing it.
Incarnate is amazing.
It's fucking phenomenal. I literally just like sat there for hours, and it's literally just like you can like you slash your finger across the map, boop, land appears.
Yeah, and it's really useful when you draw on one of those to have like a tablet or something.
Yeah, I use my laptop. It worked just fine.
Yeah, you can do it with a laptop, but like I can tell you when I got my tablet that had a touch screen, drawing out maps and stuff like that became so much easier and so much more
and
fun.
You can use it for like you can also use it for like cities, worlds, but just being able to zoom all the way out, it gives you a big square piece of paper. It's blue, and you can start drawing. You can hit the randomize one where it randomizes stuff. I never really liked what came out.
I didn't actually mess with that. I
was
probably
cool.
should.
It had like different presets. It could be like a giant ocean in the middle and then wrapped all around as land. But I never really felt like it had. It always felt like I was making part of a world the way it came out. It always like the land would always be cut off on the edges, so like it always looked like there was more land beyond the map.
Yeah,
which I wasn't. I wanted to have a full map. We've probably put hours into doodling, and I still go in there and make some little changes.
Yeah, it's addicting.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. That's what I highly recommend. Is just get something like that, something that's very easy to erase, even like a dry erase board. And just kind of start doodling. And then, like, you'll draw and you're like, oh, that's a little too wide. Wipe it down and make it a little smaller, make it a little bigger. Just slowly think of it like whenever you watch people who draw, like they'll sketch, they'll erase it, light sketches, dark sketches, shading. You go over it over and over and over again until that final product.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is hard to first start. That's why you have to kind of think like I wanted, on my map, I wanted the kind of like fantasy, like MMORPG kind of look to it, where it's like all these different continents. Oh, that's a very snowy continent. I took a little bit of inspiration from World of Warcraft, just because I liked that northern continent being the snow and all that kind of shit. So I kind of filled in all of that, and it's cool having all. I like having them separate. It's basically like I have all these separate little worlds.
Yeah, and you can take from them, and you can kind of just do like that thing that goes in a lot of RPG, MMORPGs, where it's like, okay, you've completed things on this island,
off to the next one,
and now you have this guy who shows up with a boat that'll take you to the next continent.
And as cheesy as that is, because that is literally just you playing an MMORPG, it's fun.
Yeah. And it allows you, okay, I flesh out this area. Now that I've fleshed it out, they got a little bit more missions. I can start working on fleshing out another area that they can start going to after they finish.
Another great idea, if you can, is I am running 2 different campaigns using the same world map.
In different areas.
So the first campaign, which is Sunday, is basically they begun in the bottom left. On the other game, which is every other Thursday, they begun in the top right. So now, because they're in different areas, all the players are adding their own 2 cents, and the worlds around it are slowly fleshing out. Again, going back to letting your players help build that world.
Yeah.
R.I.P. to the one guy who like surrendered himself to the weird military.
I don't want to talk about it.
We'll do an episode where we reminisce on dumb stories like that. Yeah, basically they teleported to a whole new planet, and then they like saw an army walking to war, and then one guy like stepped out onto the road with his hands up, and then was kind of being a dick to like the lieutenant of the army.
Yeah.
So they think he's insane because he's like, oh, I'm from a different planet. Like, yeah, you've lost your spare parts, bud.
Yeah, your spare parts.
you've lost your marbles. So they just like took him, and they're gonna send him to jail and let the nearby sheriff take over it.
Yeah.
And deal with it. Obviously, we all can't afford to run two separate games.
Yeah, I'm starting to get to the point. Like, I have another campaign idea where I want to run it, and I'm thinking of like making it run every other Thursday. Opposite.
Yes, I'll also play.
Oh yeah, I know. And this one I want to run as an online game because I've never done an online DM'd an online game.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to try running that and seeing if I can find some like old YouTube and Twitch friends that are like, yeah, we'll play.
I'm so ready. I can't wait.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really it.
That is the intro to how we go about world building. Intro.
So how we're hoping to do it is next episode we're going to start with we're really going to break it down. So episode 1 is that first part.
Yes.
We're going to go over we honestly kind of did it in this one, but we want to do it in a little more detail.
Yeah.
Our goal is that you can listen to this playlist and make a world along with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Bob Ross where you just follow us.
Yeah, we're going to paint so many happy little trees.
Yeah, we're going to do a happy little village.
And then what we'll do is we will release the world we create.
Yeah, we'll make a world map in Incarnate and we'll just
post it to our Twitters.
Yeah.
And Instagrams.
Oh yeah, we do have Instagram. But
I do. I have Twitter and I'm the social guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think
that's all I had really. Honestly, we ignored the majority of what we had planned.
Yeah, but that's how it always goes.
That's how it be. Well, guys, that's it. Sorry, it's been since last year.
Yeah.
It's been a whole year since we spoke.
Yeah. Yeah. But plagues happen.
Yeah, plagues. We got sicky.
It was probably that bug we ate.
That'll do it. Anyway, if you guys liked what you heard, you want to listen to more, we do have the socials.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, we do. We say it every episode, so if you're listening, you probably don't start listening to this episode, so you've probably already heard our socials, but we are on Twitter and Instagram.
I think, didn't you change it recently?
Oh, fuck, did I?
I thought you changed.
Well, our Twitter is @LockedInAShed, all one word.
Okay.
Instagram is, I forget, probably pending. I'm pretty sure I changed it to 2 Guys in a Shed. Because it was kind of weird how all of our stuff was locked in a shed when we were called 2 Guys in a Shed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, saying we are on Spotify now.
Yes.
We were on YouTube for a while. It took us some time to get on Spotify. It's the exact same thing as just 2 Guys in the Shed. We are posting all of our stuff there.
Yeah.
And I'm working on a website.
Yeah.
Little teaser there. And shout out to Squarespace. Using them.
Please sponsor us one day.
They probably, honestly, they will because they sponsor it. I've seen them on so many YouTubers. Shout out to Danny Gonzalez. I'm going to use your Squarespace code. I'm going to use your Squarespace code. I'm going to use your code for the Squarespace.
Yeah.
For the website.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Works.
Okay. So, I'm Ethan.
And I'm Jordan. I don't think that changed.
It has not. And okay, bye.
I love you.